Exploding scooters, cement shoes, and the rise and fall of the waterbed. Today on Good Work. Hello, workers of the world, and welcome to Good Work, a roundtable discussion about the world of working. Working is a major part of our lives, so we should talk about it. I'm James Mastriani.
I am Matt Newell.
And I'm Jake Lloyd Bacon, and we are writers, comedians, actors, and performers in Los Angeles, and not journalists. And so, listen, the views expressed herein do not reflect those of any company or human. I don't know.
How many ways do we have to say it? We're not journalists.
Yeah, you get it.
Jesus, get it all. Let it go, people.
Honestly, I'd stop saying it if people would stop accusing us.
Every day we're being pointed at and saying, journalist!
Fake news! You guys are fake news.
All right. Now, but just because we're not journalists doesn't mean we aren't always correct. And so one thing I will say is that we are always correct, have never made a mistake on this show yet. Probably never will.
We're three nearly middle-aged white guys with mustaches and glasses, and so I feel like we run the gamut. We run the gamut of opinions and
Jake
viewpoints.
Knows nothing about us. He just looked at us and says three things he saw. It's like knows nothing personal about us.
I'm trying to like cover the basis of that. Like we're always right. You know, we're never wrong. I was trying to do a little thing there. All right. Politically minded. That's what this is. You want to talk about some labor news?
Sure do. Let's catch up on some of this stuff here. What's going on?
I say that immediately, and this is it's labor news-ish. Comes from the chief in New York. The number of electric bikes and scooters populating city streets has grown exponentially since they first started appearing in mass in 2020. Commuters, but particularly food delivery workers, have come to rely on electric micromobility devices as faster and lower effort alternatives to traditional bikes and scooters. But just as e-bikes have proliferated, so has the number of fires attributed to the lithium-ion batteries that power the bikes.
We take one step forward, two steps back as a fucking species.
Yeah.
This will be better than cars, and then they just start blowing up everywhere.
So a big Midtown fire sparks debate. I see what they did there. Sparks debate over e-bike regulations in New York City. So according to a report released 2 weeks ago, a hearing of the City Council's Fire and Emergency Management Committee, the FDNY determined that in 2020 there were 44 fires related to lithium-ion batteries. In 2021, the report says there were 104 caused by these batteries. So from 2020 to 2021, we've more than doubled, and now in 2022, about 200. We've doubled again. I think this is like one of those. Do you want to take a cent doubled every day or $1 million? Yeah, because this number is just going to keep doubling and get bigger and bigger.
But I would always take the million because who knows? Who knows how long I'll live?
Oh, really? Yeah. That's you know what? Take the surefire thing for sure. I've learned that lesson recently. Get all of the money up front. So anyways, there was a hearing. Monday's hearing was held just a week and a half after 38 people were injured in a fire on November 5th caused by one of these batteries stored in a 12th floor apartment in Midtown Manhattan. So it's not just that they're out on the streets. It's that people are bringing these bikes home because they go, well, I don't got to find one tomorrow. I don't know if you guys, probably less where you live, Matt. I don't know. Maybe James, you have more of it. Where we live here, like on the streets on the corner, they're just lined. Like you can totally. If I walk out my apartment, people leave them outside their apartment buildings.
Oh, they're in the mountains here.
Really?
People just take them in the trails and leave them. Yeah. It sucks. you'll see. I mean, they're not as bad as when I lived in the city a little bit more, but well, there would just be piles of them.
Yeah,
right.
Dead
yeah,
birds.
And that's what it is. Yeah, the dead birds. Exactly. We have lime. Is that what they're called?
Lime, yeah.
Lime, yeah.
But so anyways, the council is now considering a slate of bills that would further regulate the sale of lithium-ion batteries and mandate that both the FDNY and Department of Consumer and Worker Protection expand its educational programs about the battery's dangers. So what today's hearing made clear is that there's an urgent need for lithium-ion battery legislation in New York City, said Councilwoman Joanne Ariola, the committee chair. Discussion about the dangers caused by the improper use of the batteries in personal mobility devices has made us more sure than ever that the batteries must be UL certified before they can be released. UL. What does UL
that mean?
We should know that. I'm sure that makes sense.
Union labor.
UL certification is done by Illinois-based safety organization approved by OSHA, OSHA, to perform safety testing. So yeah, I mean,
OSHA.
Essentially, it's we're selling dangerous things that are causing fires all over inner cities, and New York City trying to crack down on the actual regulation of them.
What are we supposed to do? Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know these fires are dangerous and deadly, but there is something very funny to me. The imagery of like somebody going only 15 miles an hour, which is how fast those things go, but leaving like a trail of flames behind them as if they're going like like light speed, like the Roadrunner. But yeah.
There's a second little layer to this, because we laugh and we chuckle and we think like, yeah, this is probably good because you should maybe regulate things that are dangerous. But of course, Hildane Hernandez, the director of policy and strategic partnership for LDU, testified in writing that the group opposes legislation in its current form because the current market, as a quote, doesn't offer or provide deliveristas, which is the title used for people who do food delivery and stuff like that, to buy UL certified batteries used for work, essentially stating that this is a restriction on poverty. This bill would penalize thousands of deliveristas who use extra cash to afford new equipment or sustain their families. New York City must set standards that keep New York and deliveristas safe instead of penalizing individuals who use this equipment to work or even transport them to places. So essentially, there's an argument saying that as drafted, it will penalize people who can't afford any items sold that qualify for the stricter restrictions. So the question is, if we restrict something, if we make it safer, that will inherently make it more expensive, and does that then create a bigger gap in between the people who are
it's like the organic certification sometimes.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
100%.
I get it. But is it on the companies that make these things? First of all,
well, yes, but that's the thing, is that the companies then will have to increase prices for distribution, and therefore the idea being that if you start throwing certifications, if all of a sudden we needed to pay to have our podcast certified by the United Podcasts Association in order for us to put it out, then we're gonna have to all of a sudden pay something.
We're not bursting into flames. There's got to be like a middle, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I know what you mean.
It's got to be somebody. Yeah, the price shouldn't go to the deliveristas, which I didn't know that was the word until.
And I also learned that as well. But it's also what we're describing is capitalism, because of course the companies not just going to go, well, then we make less money, or we have to adjust our overhead.
It's so I mean, like, it's always contradictions, right? With capitalism, is like it's just always fucking contradictions.
And of course, strictly from a public safety standpoint, the FDNY completely supports all of the council bills that will change all the regulations. And so it's a give and take. I think this is an instance where, like, there's valid points across the board, and maybe if we didn't have giant
buy their own, or is it like, are they using lime and bird?
I think in this instance they're talking about people who purchase them and use them. Yeah.
And also, I didn't know you could deliver on those scary little things.
People,
me neither.
How are you holding stuff? Do you have a basket on it, or are these including bicycles too?
I think it's electric bikes. I think it's scooters. I think it's anything that has those batteries, those popular batteries.
Yeah. I was just picturing someone on a scooter.
It could even be those
bunch of like 8 drinks or something.
Yeah. A bunch of cold brews.
Yeah.
On fire, zipping down the 405.
Just like looking like an old vaudeville comedian balancing act where they're like,
holy shit, look at that guy. That's.
But I don't know. Again, I the point I'm trying to make is like if we didn't have such a massive disparity in the wealth gap, this wouldn't be an issue. But careful with those batteries. Maybe don't keep them in your apartments. I know it's tough because like hell, we have an apartment. We can't keep.
Don't keep them next to your oily rags.
Right. Away from your water heaters? I don't know.
Yeah, no, right. You want them right next to the water.
Oh,
that way you can just puncture a hole in that, and then it'll put the fire out. But you don't want it next to like your scarecrows.
I think we're now firemen based on what we just figured out. I think we qualify.
Add that to the intro.
Yeah, not journalists, but we are firemen.
Okay.
I got a story, and this story is coming from the country of Qatar, where the World Cup is currently happening. And go USA. Surprisingly, no Italy this year. But, so...
What the fuck podcast is this? What are we talking about?
This
World
is
Cup news.
The only sport we talk about is pickleball.
Football.
Pickleball is the only the official sport of good work.
So, Qatar built this big, beautiful stadium preparing for this World Cup. And there is a really great article in The Athletic that highlights the fact, and no matter what country it is, I think solidarity, class consciousness should be a global thing. It should be an international thing.
Sure.
Every country has oppressed workers who are, stuck in a fucking shitty system. And to build this, they discovered 6,500 migrant workers perished while building this stadium because of insane.
What?
Yeah. 6,500. And so in this article by The Athletic, the Qatarian government has been able to hide it, claiming only 3 have died. But an investigation by The Athletic uncovered that, weirdly enough, all of these migrant workers who have backgrounds in construction and were in their 20s were suddenly dying. 6,500 of them died in the city or in the country of Qatar, but were never reported as being from. And it's like an outlier. Like, this is not something that normally happens. And they discovered a whole bunch of like 20-year-old migrant workers had died of a heart attack, which is not something that normally happens for 20-year-olds.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Are they migrant workers from where?
They're primarily from India, and I believe I think the other one might be Iran, maybe.
Holy shit! And were they just like? Is it? Are they finding that it's like accidents? Or like they're not all having. It's not like a chemical thing. It's like the dangerous work.
It's
how are
just
they
like
dying?
shitty work environment.
They're dying of They're dying of being overworked, so they're having heart attacks. They're dying of bad accidents. They're dying of all kinds of bleeding, like everything. It's crazy.
I'm sure there's disease. Yeah, I'm sure. And did you say, I don't know if I missed it, like the origin of these migrant workers? Like, because I know there's a lot of areas there that are like really exploitative in places like Qatar, where it's kind of like an American dream scenario where they reach out to other impoverished countries and say like, oh, like we have so much
he said
work
they're
here.
From India and Iran.
So okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Definitely India. I'm behind a paywall on The Athletic right now on my computer because my
You don't have a subscription to The Athletic?
I do actually, but it's on my iPad.
Do?
I do, yeah.
He forgot his
It's
password.
a really good read. I like The Athletic, but it just goes to show that I think it's important to highlight that this is happening all over the world, and that
it seems like the sort of it seems like a sort of thing that we think stuff used to be like that.
Yeah.
But nowadays that you can't get away with that sort of thing. Like that, I think that's like like the general idea is like, well, nowadays something like that couldn't possibly happen.
Yeah.
But it very much can and does.
Oh, absolutely. And we talk all the time about like, equal opportunity and safety and that sort of stuff. And clearly these migrant workers, and it sucks too, because obviously like this was they wanted to make this soccer stadium so that their wealthy and elite and ruling class can continue to make even more money off of this and bring a bunch of money into the country. And it's like, 6,500 people had to die for a fucking sports stadium.
I got some specifics here. I'm on The Guardian. They also did the article. It says looks like workers are from 5 South Asian nations.
Okay.
Wow. So it's look, and this is data from these nations. So I think they kind of compiled the data from these different places and then realized, hey, wait a second, a certain amount of people from this place were working in Qatar, and then here and there, and then they kind of like figured out that there's something fishy's going on. But it was India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. It looks like those are the main places.
Yeah, and
also workers from the Philippines and Kenya, and so it was a lot of different places that.
And the idea just being like, hey, come here. We have so much work. You can support your family. You'll go home rich.
Right.
And then, and I'm sure that like, I wish I was more informed or more specifically had a better memory, because I do recall watching some special, and I'm struggling to think of what it was. It might have just been like Last Week Tonight, maybe, where they spoke about how like there's this slave labor that's occurring in which like places like Qatar are tricking migrants in under the guise of like, we're not only will you get work, but we're going to put you up, and they show them these resorts, because that's the sort of places they're likely working at. But then they house them in slums, and they put them 20 to a room, and they pretty much at that point have them under lock and key, because they are migrants. They're generally not legal citizens, so they're afraid. And these companies can kind of just do whatever they want, and it's that instance of like the people in power ensuring that the workforce fears them enough to just do whatever they say, because they don't have a choice. And people are constantly dying and going missing, and it's there's so little contact with home, so it's not even like their families can try to figure out where they are. Like that's that's something that's so horrible to think about. Is like, how many, you said 6,000 something? Yeah, 6,000.
6,500, yeah.
All of those families, and how many of them even know that their loved one is gone, or they just haven't heard from them in so long, because I'm sure that just communication is not even there to begin with.
Totally.
Man, that's horrible.
I know. It's a real bummer. And it's also like really, I don't know, it just really puts a stain on, it's such a cool thing for all the countries in the world to get together and play, the athletes to play in the, World Cup or the Olympics. But then year after year we see, because the Olympics are this too, like just completely fucking over people to, bring in this $1 billion entity.
I mean, FIFA itself is the fucking an evil. If you're like a bleeding heart liberal and you're like, but I can't wait for FIFA. Yeah, I have bad news for you. There is no ethical consumerism, because
also Qatar sucks because they're, it's illegal to be gay there.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's like so many ways it's
totally.
like
it's illegal. It's a crazy theocratic.
Well, James, that was a real bummer of a story. Luckily, Matt never has bummers to talk about, Matt.
Oh, my God. What do you guys want? You guys want Starbucks dues? You want layoffs first? Let's do some layoffs. This is from last week out of the New York Times. Amazon has said to lay off thousands of employees. They're going to cut approximately 10,000 workers from different divisions. A lot of them are in the Alexa division, I guess. Is what it's called.
Well, it's probably the tech. It's like the actual tech division.
Amazon plans to lay off approximately 10,000 people in corporate and technology jobs starting as soon as this week, which is, if you're listening to this, was last week.
Right.
People with knowledge of the matter said in what would be the largest job cuts in the company's history. The cuts will focus on Amazon's devices organization, including the voice assistant Alexa, as well as its retail division and in human resources, said the people who spoke on condition of anonymity. Oh my God. Anonymity. Anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. So, big layoffs coming right before the holiday season.
I mean, it makes sense. That company is hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, they're not making any money. They got no wiggle room there. They're barely scraping by every.
What was the number? You've said it a few times throughout a few episodes, James, and we talked about it like months ago. Like, what's the number that they make off of like the average warehouse worker?
It's something like Amazon pulls in $325,000 a year per worker in profits. And pays them an average of like 28,000 or something like that. It's an insane, like it's fucking insane. It's almost cartoon. It's almost funny. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's cartoon. It's comic. We always talk about this. It's like movie and comic book villain. It's just
totally.
Like, also, it's obvious. It's not
according
hidden.
to this. The pandemic produced Amazon's most profitable error on record. So they're just they really made like when the rest of the world is in pain and suffering, and they're just fucking rolling in it.
Yeah. Now it's time to lay off some workers.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, you're not scared of a coronavirus anymore? Well, how about if you're afraid of not having that at a job?
The CEO just presses a button underneath his desk, and like 10,000 workers just fall wherever they're at. They just fall like an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, he has 3 buttons under there. One just says pandemic. One says layoffs. The other says war.
Yeah, I think he's got a 4th one just for a little cloth that comes down and shines his head.
Yeah.
Just a little head shine.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I guess a lot of tech companies, it says here, also laying off people. Lyft, Stripe, Snap. I've never heard of Stripe or Snap.
Is Stripe the payment company? I think Stripe is. I know it is because I use it. That's how like we have a Stripe set up. So when people buy stuff from like
these all sound like wrestling moves.
There's not enough.
My God, he hit him with the stripe and then the snap.
He lifted his snap over his stripe.
As an actual wrestling nerd, I don't agree. There's too many one syllables there. You need some twists, some drops, some slams, some drivers. Come on now.
Slams is one syllable, first of all. So it's drops.
Yeah, but it would be like it would be like a stripe driver. Or like a stripe slam. So you need to add those into it, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
What about an Uber lift?
There it is. An Uber lift.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he gave him the Uber lift over the stripe. I don't know wrestling.
Everybody knows tech is a failing industry. So no one's making any money in it. So it makes sense that they're all going under. There's another company that also never has any bad news, right, Matt?
Oh my God! Let's get into some Starbucks news, guys. Woo! Do you have a jingle for this? This is a little bit of a weird one. Detroit Starbucks forced to close after PETA protesters encased feet in concrete and blocked entrance. So a bunch of PETA protesters, borderline lunatics, I say at times, they put their feet in concrete and blocked the entrance of a Detroit Starbucks to protest the price of non-dairy milk.
The price of non-dairy milk? Because I see, because it's
too expensive. And then the higher the price, it makes cow milk more appealing and affordable. So it's saying hurting the cows.
That makes sense.
So let me get into this here. Starbucks in Detroit was forced to close on Friday after 4 protesters blocked the entrance by encasing their feet in concrete. PETA supporters protest Starbucks' upcharge of non-dairy milk by encasing their feet in concrete and blocking the store's entrance for 4 hours with signs and chants. 2 of the 4 protesters were taken away in an ambulance. I mean, this picture is crazy to put your feet in concrete.
Also, isn't concrete, doesn't it cause chemical burns? I mean, maybe they were wearing socks or something, but I think it causes really bad chemical burns.
I don't know if they were in bare feet.
I don't know why that made me laugh so hard to think about, like, your immediate self-argument, James, of like, well, doesn't it? Oh, never mind. They were probably wearing socks. Like that. That solves all the problems.
Yeah,
everybody knows nothing gets through socks. The ultimate. I'm pretty sure that was what Tony Stark made that suit out of, right? It was all sock material.
Yeah, sock. Also, does the Iron Man suit give you chemical burns?
Right. Yeah. There it is.
Starbucks punitive price hike on vegan milks harms cows, the planet, and customers who are lactose intolerant, many of whom are people of color, says PETA Executive Vice President Tracy Ryman. PETA has appealed to Starbucks to stop profiting from the plant-based milk upcharge, but so far greed continues to define the company's position. This comes as the latest protest from PETA supporters. The previous cement-in, they've done this before, took place outside of the Nashville Starbucks, which resulted in the arrest of 4 protesters. Other supporters have superglued themselves to counters in Chicago, New York City, and the company's headquarters in Seattle. Man, that's committed though. Like, do they superglue their head? Or how do they do that? Or their butt? Or their feet? Like,
I don't know. Why are they doing this stuff to their bodies? Stop doing stuff. Protest in another way.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself.
Yeah,
people are animals too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta protect the people.
Yeah, totally. This is animal cruelty, what you're doing.
Yeah. Somebody should protest you. Somebody should, zip tie their balls to something.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the next one. How do you go up from concrete? Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't know how much they do charge a lot more for non-dairy stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Starbucks in a long time, but I feel like most coffee shops do, which sucks.
I feel like in this instance, I'm a man without a side to this war because fuck Starbucks, but also fuck PETA. PETA is a bunch of hypocrites. They're awful.
I know.
Awful organization, and they're so hypocritical about literally everything.
Hey, we're unbiased here. All my Starbucks news isn't going to be anti-Starbucks guys.
That's true.
All right, so just
true.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard that conspiracy theory that PETA is actually a psyop and that it's the meat industry created PETA?
No.
And made them so unlikable and radical so that everybody would hate anti-meat activists?
All right. As ridiculous and hypocritical as PETA is, that's fucking batshit crazy, but I love it.
Of course. It's really funny.
But I love it.
I don't know. Funny. I'm on board.
I mean, they are over the top. They are over the top. Just like throwing, throwing blood and shit everywhere.
Well, they're also hypocrites.
They all that blood.
Like, you don't even. You go back and watch the fucking the Penn and Teller episode. Bullshit all about PETA. PETA. You know how many animals PETA euthanizes every fucking year?
Yeah,
and the president of the organization takes medicine that comes from like testing and some material from cows. And it's like, I'm all about this, unless of course my life is online, and then
PETA would break into my house and free my elderly cat, so it would die in the woods.
But and they'd set you on fire for it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Take away all the vaccines from my dog or whatever.
I don't think, guys. I don't think
rabies.
I don't think Alicia Silverstone is going to be a guest on next week's show. We had her penned in. I don't think it's gonna. We should probably cross that off.
Shit.
We'll get her.
Not Alicia.
So is that better? Is that better than the layoffs?
A little bit, not much.
A little bit better. Well, tell me what you guys think of this, because we want to close out this first half here of the show with a
2-minute warning,
an update, an update on the possible rail strike in America.
That was very melodic. I thought you were about to bust in the song there for a second, James.
I was pausing for potential sound effect maybe in post if you want. If you don't want to, you could just let it sit there in awkwardness for comedic effect. I'm fine either way.
I'll tell you what. I will have put a long echo on when you said it.
Love it.
Okay.
Even better. Perfect.
You're not even aware that happened. Listeners are like, yeah, he did a weird thing with his voice, and it has happened.
Yep, it has happened.
I hope all this stays in, but you forget to do it.
Yeah. Here's what else is looking like it's going to happen, you guys. The largest union, railroad union, has voted to reject the proposal, which means in 2 weeks, unless Congress, a lame duck.
1 week and 23 hours from now.
Yeah, 1 week and 23 hours from now. It looks like unless Congress does some sort of, thing to step in and prevent a strike, which, by the way, this is one, a lame duck Congress. And two, this is the time of year when the Congress usually takes off, 4 months. They just fucking leave. And it looks like we could be heading towards, how about this? A train wreck of a situation with, all of these. I mean, it's like everything. You're talking about if you're, all transportation divisions of sheet metal, air, rail. So like this is air delivery too. Transportation, locomotive engineers, all trains. I mean, like it's going to be insane. Like,
what do you mean? The air?
Well, a couple of the unions are also a part of air
trains.
Air trains. Also, yeah, air trains, which are like trains on the ground, but they're in the air and they fly.
Listen, last week we learned that the Air Force had ocean stuff as well.
Yeah,
now we're learning that they also have train stuff.
I will say this: I think CNN is kind of showing their ass a little bit here with a little bit of editorializing. Saying that the one of the subheadlines of the article is "Lucrative deal gets rejected." The deals being voted down are lucrative for union members. Super leftist CNN coming in and holding the dicks of the railroad companies. Fucking gross, dude. You guys suck. CNN sucks. Gross. Yeah. Look at this. Union members would receive cash bonuses of $1,000 a year. Holy shit. A fucking $1,000 a year? How lucrative. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, sorry. That made me angry.
I appreciate it. It's absolutely fucking absurd.
I don't think you know what that, I think you don't realize how much that is per week.
I'm gonna guess that you do, Matt.
It's like probably like $25 a week.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. No, that would make it it's a little bit less than that, because that'd be $100 a month, which would be $1,200. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
but the thing that they're not talking about, in the CNN article, that they're only talking about the money, right? They're saying they'd receive 14% raise with back pay dating to 2020. But what they're not talking about is what they want, which is sick paid leave, time off when you are unwell, and to not be on call 24 hours a day. Which is, insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking absurd. Just give these people what they want. It does not seem like they're asking for more than they deserve.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious. And I'm sure that there are, very intelligent people and economists high up corporate chains and in chains of public interest who probably make very valid talking points for them to not turn down this deal. And I'm sure there's people much smarter than us that can speak better to the nuance of it. But at this point, it seems like, it's pretty obvious. At least to the layman, it's pretty obvious. Like it's reasonable requests that are being made.
I agree. And I'll tell you what, it'll be really interesting to see what the Biden administration does here, because if they push, the Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh, is already pushing for Congress to step in and prevent this.
Right.
And if the Democratic Party does that, I mean, essentially really fucking over the workers, really just coming in and making it so that they have to accept the deals. And the Democrats are already struggling with labor.
I mean,
they lost the workers,
But is that the
90s.
only way that Congress can intervene? Can they not force the other side? Is it only they're going to come in and say too fucking bad? You have to take it? Or can they come in and say, like, no, you guys, the rail industry, you guys have to fucking take it and give the people what they want?
That would be amazing if they did.
You're asking if Congress can do the right thing?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Totally.
There's a reason it starts with con.
Legally, Congress is never allowed to do the right thing.
Yeah,
I think it's somewhere in the Constitution.
Yeah,
legally, but we're not lawyers.
We
have to add that in the
can.
beginning.
They absolutely
we're journalists. Wait, what are we?
Oh, well. Once again, good luck to us all.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
This episode of Good Work is brought to you in part by The Chief, a New York City-based newspaper focused on municipal government, civil servants, and the important issues affecting New York State and federal employees. Visit thechiefleader.com, where you can subscribe for as little as $2.75 a month. If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride, all while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. So shop now at dragonwagonshop.com and get your dragon swag on.
Welcome back, workers. It is the holiday season, a time when we shop for things for our loved ones and our enemies.
Wow.
So
you're so
I
kind,
think
Matt.
We would, but it'll be like, a fart cake or something for your enemies.
Oh, right.
So not something you want.
Right.
And then for your friends, like a fart pie.
Wow, we know where Matt falls on the pie versus cake argument.
We're going to talk about waterbeds, okay? We're going to talk about waterbeds. That's what the hell we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about stupid products that we once thought we needed. Did you guys have a waterbed? Let's start with there. A little Q&A at the top of the show.
And I never had a waterbed. My brother had a waterbed. Him and his now wife had one.
Okay.
And it was always real fucking weird to me. It was real weird to me. Yeah.
My parents had one, and it was so stupid. Yeah. James?
Both of my older sisters had one.
It's this trashy.
It's so trashy.
I mean,
how
long did the waterbed craze last, do you think? Or do you know? Do you have the data?
I do.
I feel like it was real hot for a few years. Like I feel like it was 90s.
No, it was like this. It was, what it was? It was real sexy. It was like in the 70s. It was like Bachelor Pad.
It is.
Right.
Hugh Hefner had one.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit in this article.
The motion,
because it was about the motion in the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was invented in like the late 60s by this guy in California. Let's just get into a little bit of the history, the rise and fall of the mighty waterbed. The waterbed, as we know it, got its start, and I'm pulling from a few different articles. One is the Atlantic, one is the New York Times, the other one is apartmenttherapy.com, which is a hot news source I didn't know about. The waterbed, as we know it, got its start in California in the late 60s. After experimenting with chairs filled with cornstarch and even Jell-O, Charlie Hall, a design student at San Francisco State University, hit upon the idea of a mattress full of water. He presented the water-filled mattress as his master thesis one evening in 1968, and his entire class spent the day frolicking on it. So isn't that nice? So what a fun day there.
Did I hear that he's in the early experimentation, Jell-O was one of them, and a chair.
Yep, he was trying to relieve pressure points on the body, and one of the Yeah, he tried cornstarch. It didn't work. He tried Jell-O. He said people couldn't move when in the cornstarch. They got in, they couldn't get out.
They couldn't move.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's great.
So he started that, and then but the idea of the waterbed goes back to the 1800s. Actually, says here Hull wasn't the first person to come up with the idea of filling a mattress with water. In the early 1800s, Dr. Neil Arnott created a hydrostatic bed for invalids. That was a quote that was intended to reduce bed sores. The bed consisted of a warm bath filled with water and topped with a layer of rubber, which was then sealed to prevent leaks. And science fiction writer Robert Heinlein was inspired also, and he because he spent time bedridden, and for some disease, who knows what kind of fucking. Let me see here.
Bedridden. Let me guess. He had worms. Or just one giant worm. He had one giant worm, and it was like too heavy. He couldn't walk.
That's what it was. He worked in the early 20th century. Robert Heinlein's science fiction novels prophesized the modern waterbed, but he never actually built it. So in his novels, he had waterbeds, but he never he foresaw them. He was kind of like our Nostradamus. I designed the waterbed during a year as a bed patient in the middle 30s. A pump to control water level, side supports to permit one to float rather than simply lying on a not very soft water-filled mattress, thermostatic control of temperature, safety interfaces to avoid all possibility of electric shock, waterproof box to make a leak no more important than a leaky hot water bottle rather than a domestic disaster, calculation of floor loads, important! Important! Internal rubber mattress and lighting, reading and eating arrangements, an attempt to design the perfect hospital bed by one who had spent too damn much time in hospital beds. End quote.
I mean, it does seem like it makes sense. Like, like if you're on a mattress and there's pressure pushing back to you, that water would be less resistant and that it would
totally
form to your shape. Like it makes sense. It's like, sure. This might be. I mean, we do water therapy for like muscle strength, and so why not just sleep on it?
Yeah, and I think the idea of it is still used. Like Tempur-Pedic is kind of the same idea, but it's just less
not water.
You don't have to fucking put a swimming pool in your living or in your fucking bedroom anymore. It's also I remember when we moved, you had to drain it and then refill it. You know, you got to run your hose in through your window. We had to run our garden hose in and just sitting there and filling our bed.
It's so funny.
Our parents' bed. I was like, this is so weird. And like,
did your parents seem like they had like a medical reason for it? Were they like, oh, well, it's comfortable, it's a better night's sleep, or was it just cool?
It was.
They just thought it was cool.
That's what it was. It was like, excuse me, like a status, or like everyone's got to get this thing.
Yeah, the status thing.
That's what
I get that.
Feels like it was like the latest. Yeah, I mean,
it's just cool. Yeah, it was just like you gotta have it.
It also like really undercuts the whole. I mean, I guess like with the whole supply and demand thing, right? It's like, how much of demand is like manipulation and brainwashing? You know what I mean? Like, is it real demand?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from a nerdy indie band called Harvey Danger is, "Fashion is the art of brainwashing the proud," and I feel like that quote applies to like most consumerism and fashion and most like modern art. I don't mean like film and television, but like, like just it's exactly that. It's just brainwashing the proud who go, oh, I need to have that. They have it.
Yeah.
Well, and then it also became like a hotbed for like swingers and stuff. Like the water mattress display in New York became like a place to meet people.
Oh, yeah.
It was like where you would meet, like singles would meet up at the waterbed display. And Hugh Hefner had one.
Of course.
It became like a real sexy thing. And then in the 80s, it became more suburban.
Right.
I mean, that's how things like start real trendy, and then they like trickle down. And like as soon as your grandma or your uncle gets it, it's no longer cool.
Right. For your grandma's
also,
swinger parties.
Grandma.
It's also interesting because I the only people that I knew that ever had them were couples. It was never a single person. I feel like it's a single person sleeping arrangement because I know for a fact, like my brother and his now wife, like she used to tell us all the time, like, oh, if he rolls over, it like creates a wave and I go flying off the fucking bed.
Yeah, it takes like 15 minutes once you get in to settle down for
the waves to stop.
Yeah, and
you're in there playing the rest of the night. You have to play fucking Marco Polo for 15 minutes before you go to bed.
Also, I love just the idea of trying to sleep under the stress of knowing that one sharp fingernail could just drown you.
Well, that's true. So like you said earlier, like that it's like the original ones, it's just like creating a rubber seal and stuff. Like, what are they made out of? Because my fear was always like,
vinyl. The invention of vinyl was what changed and made them more because they're made of vinyl now. Easier to produce and stuff because I guess rubber wasn't as malleable. I don't really know that.
Well, it's not. It's easier to pierce. Rubber is significantly easier to pierce than vinyl. Vinyl has more of a plastic consistency than a your tire.
Companies also use sex appeal. Like here's two slogans from different waterbed companies. This one: 2 things are better on a waterbed. One of them is sleep. That was one of their slogans.
Wow, that's
the other one's fucking Jake. Okay,
that was a good read. That was a good read. Wait, can you give me the next one? All right, and like real sultry, sultry. I'll put some sexy music under it.
She'll admire you for your car. She'll respect you for your position, but she'll love you for your waterbed.
Well done. Applause.
You guys all
round of applause.
Wet.
You know
Dude,
what?
I'm fucking pregnant.
We're still reading a few other actors, but great job. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. I'm based out of LA though, so that helps. But I'm not vaccinated.
Yeah.
So I talked about the display at Bloomingdale's, Sears, Roebuck, and Holiday Inns were all having like putting waterbeds and like advertising that they have waterbeds.
Right. Yeah.
And then they took at one point in the 80s, 20% of beds were waterbeds. So
That's
1 in 5 beds
insane.
sold were waterbeds.
That is crazy.
Everyone wanted them, and then all of a sudden they became the douchiest thing.
It was when my brother had one that I feel like I started going, you have a waterbed? Like, really? Like, what? It became really corny. And I think it became associated with the like sexy, we're cool, like the like wannabe Playboy so
it's like
much.
Circle beds. It's like beds that would rotate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Or like the ones you'd put quarters in.
The vibrating.
They vibrate, they shake.
The magic fingers.
I was trying to find. That's right.
That's really funny. Is there what do you think is like the current waterbed?
So now they fill it. So I got a little. There's 2 things. One thing is so now only like 5% of beds are waterbed, which still is like a lot.
More than I would think. Honestly, way more than I would think.
I didn't know they were even sold anymore. But they're like hybrid waterbeds that are use pockets of air mixed with water, and I think. If I understand it, it's more like individual little pockets of water that they fill.
Right.
So it doesn't create this, like one move doesn't wave the whole bed.
Interesting.
Like just it somehow breaks up the displacement in some way, shape, or form.
So.
Right?
That's
because if there's a little bit of air in each chamber, then there's a little bit of room for the water to go, but not a ton of room.
Yes. Yeah. And also before this, but they became so popular that people the apartments would ban like some apartments like weren't allowed to have water beds. It's like aquariums too.
I'm sure they would
leak.
Yeah, or if something did happen and they pierced, you'd have a massive flood, especially if you're on like the 2nd or 3rd floors.
Yeah,
the people below you would be absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
So this Nichols. This was from a DC mattress salesman or bed salesman. Says he has to trick his customers into buying water beds. He shows the bed, but does not mention their name. And even if customers, if they like the bed, and then as soon as they discover it's a waterbed, they all want to buy it. Everyone who tries, this is him quoting, everybody who tries the ones we have on our floor is very happy with the feel, but some people won't get it just because it's a waterbed. So that's where they're at now. They're also the other big thing that they were used for. And let me find this real quick. Oh yeah. So they're called waveless waterbeds. Okay, here we go. Time magazine, which reported on this. This is published an article a long time ago about the trend of buying waterbeds for cows. Apparently, this unconventional accommodation helps to reduce soreness and infection and is less likely to grow bacteria than beds of traditional materials like wood or chips. So I guess it's better for the cow to go sleep on a waterbed.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there you go, PETA.
All right.
How's that? Yeah, you're going to go pierce all the waterbed?
Honestly, it's probably one of the funniest transitions of uses to being like, we're sexy. Get a sexy waterbed to like, are your cows having sores? Buy a waterbed for them.
What do you think? I looked up a few waterbed. I mean, they're like, how much do you think a waterbed is now?
How much?
Yeah. Like a new one.
1,500.
Oh, pretty good. I think it's 18.
Yeah, I figured it somewhere. In there. I figured they used to.
That might be a Black Friday sale. I mean, it's such a silly thing to have just that much water in your house.
And also, like, all right, so why hasn't the air mattress taken off?
We have an air mattress. We just got one because we had a guest stay, and we got it. The technology of the air mattress is wild. I mean, they're still not that.
They're still just it's a big ass bubble, and it depends on how much you fill it and how comfortable you are.
It was like a box, like this big,
right.
It's a queen size,
right?
You just push a button, it unfolds.
Yep, that's what ours
has
is.
a frame to it. Yours does too, and then you can adjust the firmness of it and stuff. It's wild.
Ours you can't adjust the firmness, but it is like this sort of like auto structure, and it's got 3 separate compartments, so that way. If one of them loses air, it's like it distributes in a specific way, and it's real fancy shit. Real fancy shit. But also, like, I would feel like I would probably just, instead of spending $1,500 on a waterbed, I'd like, well, if I don't like my regular mattress, I'll just go to an air one. It's $49.99.
Well, here's the other thing though, is like when we had our guests, we had to keep our cat out of that room.
Oh yeah,
she'll pop the bed. Like that's the problem with both of these.
Right,
they're poppable. Like a regular mattress is not poppable.
Yeah.
I can't lay on it with your keys in your pocket.
I was just about to say I did have a friend who destroyed my last guest air mattress, because they sat on it with their keys and it went right through.
Oh man, that's
there it is, another stupid product that.
Well, I mean,
we don't need.
You labeled this as the rise and fall, but once you brought the cows into it, I feel like it's maybe just the rise and reposition of the waterbed is what it really is, because I feel like I'm really excited for these cows.
I mean, that was from that specific thing was from 2012. So I don't know if the cows, maybe they shifted to air.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's spread to other members of the animal kingdom.
Oh, you think giraffes are on them?
Yeah, you never know.
You think sharks have land mattresses?
What'd you say? Sorry.
I said, do you think sharks have land mattresses? What were you going to say?
I was going to say we could solve the methane. We could solve the methane problem. Make beds out of cow farts.
Oh, they inflate their own bed.
They inflate their own bed, and then
circle of life.
Yep, there you go. And then we don't have quite as bad climate change, and we can still keep oil, and we can still keep our big ships.
Why aren't these cow farts motorizing these lime and bird scooters?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
See, listen, we have all the answers here. I think that's what we've learned today. Well, thanks so much, Matt. That was fucking weird and fun. I want to do more rise and fall of idiotic consumerism.
I'm all about it.
Supply and demand.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the program, hey, check out goodworkpod.com for all things good work. There you can find official merchandise. Snag yourself a shirt, snag yourself a mug. Links to our personal social media accounts are there. You can find our Discord community link. That's completely free and a really fun. Listen, if you're anti-social media, you'll be pro-Discord. It's a fun community. You can just talk to us directly. You can talk to the other members of the Good Work community as well as Dragon Wagon Radio. Fun place, Discord. And all of that is at goodworkpod.com.
Also, you can email us at goodworkpod@gmail.com or call the Good Work voicemail box at 929-256-5151. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us a story about quitting or being fired or starting a revolution or whatever it is that you want to tell us about regarding your work, your labor. So contact us.
And please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us out. Just throw a 5-star up there. Tell me how awesome I am. You don't even have to mention the other two guys. And then also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/goodworkpod, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Patreon.com/goodworkpod. Best way to support the show. And the last little piece of business here. Because it is the season of giving, end of the year. I always like to put this out there. If you're enjoying this podcast, I highly encourage you to check out dragonwagonradio.com/support. Good Work is part of the Dragon Wagon Radio independent podcast network. Over 20 programs fly the Dragon Wagon Radio banner, all independently produced and free to you, the listening public. So if you're enjoying this program and you want to show your support this holiday season, there's a few ways you can do so. You can make a donation directly to the network. You can gift us something off of the wish list and have it sent right here to the Dragon's Den. Tons of ways to help big and or small over at dragonwagonradio.com/support. Thanks again for listening to the program. It's real fun to do, and we hope that everybody is having a fantastic holiday season.
Good work.
Good work.
Daddy, can I have a waterbed? Please, Daddy, can I have a waterbed?
Go ahead and look, and I'll be along in a minute.
Daddy, come here. This waterbed's only $119.
That's right. You get a waveless mattress, and it weighs only 300 pounds. You get the mattress, the deck, the pedestal for only $119, and shown for $399.
Okay, Kim, you can have the waterbed, and Daddy loves you.
Out American.
Dragon Wagon.